We've been bringing you lots of stories about Colleen Jones and how she's being remembered today. My next guest recalls the memories she's had with her on and off the ice. Jennifer Jones shares the same last name and love of the sport. She is a former Team Canada curler and also an Olympic champion, as well as a friend of Colleen's. And Jennifer, appreciate you speaking with us today, and then our condolences to you. I just want to begin with just your initial thoughts of just the news of Colleen Jones passing away.
My heart's broken. The curling world has lost just the most special person, but so is her family and Canada and her friends. Colleen had a magic, a sparkle about her, and there was nobody like Colleen. I remember the first time I met her, she made me feel as welcome as if I'd known her for 100 years. And that was the quality of Colleen that I think was the most special. It's just how she made you feel like you were a part of her family. So terribly sad that she's gone, but her legacy is going to live on forever.
Can you tell me a little bit about that, about her legacy?
Well, she was always, a champion for women in sport. She would continue to advocate. I remember seeing her last year, almost a year ago, in Nova Scotia at the Olympic trials, the mixed doubles Olympic trials, and she was continuing to advocate for what was fair, what was right, whether it was women in sport or anything else. She was not afraid to speak up and to make sure that the sport was continuing to evolve and to grow. And she always said to me, she'd give me a big hug and say, "My sister from another mother," because we shared the last name. And she was just so special and really showed women in curling that hard work and determination paid off. And I think she kind of kickstarted women's curling in Canada.
And you faced one another a couple of times. Can you take us through some of the stories you had competing against one another?
Yeah, she was a fierce competitor on the ice, and I admired that in her. But like I said, I remember my first Scotties feeling like I might not belong here. And there was Colleen. She gave me a big hug and she said, "Welcome to the show." And I'll never forget that. She went out of her way to make us feel like we belong there, that we were welcome. And ever since then, she was a friend, a familiar face, somebody that you could go up to and you knew that she would, have a hug waiting for you, or just some words, some chatter, and we always have the best conversations. And we were fortunate enough to have her be she would interview us every day at the Olympics when we were there in Sochi. And she was just such a friendly and welcoming face with the most amazing questions, not the typical questions that everybody would ask. Colleen would come up with the ingenious ones, the ones that everybody wanted to know, but nobody could come up with. She was just so good.
And Jennifer, so many people have been remembering her as a broadcaster, people that watched her as a broadcaster, but in the curling community. I mean, she was a real superstar, right? Can you tell us a little bit about how curlers are feeling today?
I've gotten a lot of messages on my phone, and Colleen kept a lot of things private. So a lot of people were very, very surprised, and just the legacy she left. Colleen is going to be remembered in curling in Canada and the world for the rest of our lives, for the rest of history. Her name is going to be in the history books as somebody who really evolved the sport, changed the sport, loved the sport, was passionate about it, and really wanted to play it to the best of her ability. They were the first team that really focused on fitness and trying to evolve. Like I said, the women's game. She was a mom. She was a career woman. She tried to do it all and showed us that it was possible. So I think we're all stunned a little bit and just so sad that Colleen is no longer with us here. But we're so very grateful that she stepped in those steps before us to pave the way to make curling so great. And we'll be forever grateful for the legacy that she's left.
And Jennifer, I understand she was a real inspiration to you and your incredible curling career.
She was, and Colleen and I shared this joy of curling, this work hard, love to practice. We would laugh about it, that we thought we loved to practice more than anybody else. And just her never being afraid to lose, always holding her head up high, knowing that she put absolutely everything into it. And she was just a true friend. And I know that when we won, the hug that she gave me after we won the Olympics in 2014 is a moment that I'll remember forever, because she said, the words that she said, the kindness that she showed, and I always looked up to her and admired her and her tenacity and her legacy. And I never thought I'd be in the same breath as Colleen Jones. And in that moment, she welcomed me into her world. And it's a moment I'll remember forever.
Jennifer, we appreciate your memories of your friend today. Thank you very much. That was Jennifer Jones, friend of Colleen Jones and former Team Canada curler.